Hey guys, it's Chad Smith again. I'm here with my buddy Latham. He's going to demonstrate some of the exercises and some of the stretches that we're going to do for the forward head posture. Whenever you find somebody with a forward head posture, or the head that is the ears are over or in front of the acromion process, that's usually due to some of the muscles that are really tight, usually the back of the neck, such as the suboccipitals, the levators, the upper traps, their pec minor, also in the scalenes back here in the back of the neck. They're just really tight. We need to stretch those out. Also, it could be due because of some of the back. You need to strengthen some of the muscles back there, such as the rhomboids, the mid to lower traps, some of the cervical extensors, such as the splenius cervicus and the splenius capitis, and also the platysma up here in the front. We need to strengthen those up. So what I'm going to do now is show you a stretch that could help out stretch some of those trouble areas up in the neck and the back. And actually, I'm going to ask Latham if he's going to lay down the stability ball for me. He's going to put his shoulder blades on the ball. He's going to reach his arms back, and he's just going to lay there. He's going to try to relax his traps. He's going to relax his thoracic cavity. He can roll forward or back a little bit as he needs to go ahead and stretch everything out. He's going to relax his head, so that way his extensors are firing and everything in the front, the anterior portion, is being stretched out and getting lengthened. And you can lay here up to 1-2 minutes, sit up, shake your head out a little bit. You can do it that way. Some self-stretches if you don't have a stability ball or anything like that at your house. You can also just apply a little bit of pressure to your chin, pushing over. That'll stretch out that sternocleidomastoid. That'll stretch out the platysma. It'll also stretch out just a little bit of the scalenes and everything in the back of the neck. As far as our exercise, what we're going to do, I'm going to ask Latham to stand back up for me as he's getting a nice little stretch. The exercise is very simple. All you do with the exercise is a simple chin tuck. Now, whenever you do the chin tuck, just make sure you're not bringing your chin to your sternum. Okay, that's not what you want to do. What you want to do is you're trying to bring your chin back, like you're making a double chin almost. You're going to relax it, come straight back again. We're going to do this up to 100 times a day. Speaking with some medical professionals, they actually have the general population without a forward head posture. They have them do this 100 times a day. With somebody who does have the forward head posture, they'll have them do it up to 150 to 200 times a day, just depending on how bad that is. So this is our forward head posture, how to correct it, how to stretch things, and how to strengthen things in order to correct that posture for that malalignment. So to continue our posture malalignments and the correcting of these malalignments, the next thing we have on our list is kyphosis. Now, kyphosis, you're going to see in the thoracic spine. This is usually due to still some of the same muscles that we had that need to be stretched whenever somebody has a forward head posture, because typically whenever you have that kyphosis, your head is forced to go forward as well. So a lot of those muscles that we strengthened and need to stretch in the forward head posture, we also need to strengthen and stretch in the kyphotic climb as well. So in kyphosis, you also need to stretch your suboccipitals, again, your levators, your upper traps, your pec minor, your scalenes, and also your mid and lower traps now, because we're moving a little bit further down to where the forward head posture was a lot of the cervical spine. Now we're moving down to that thoracic spine right here, that thoracic spine. It's right here in the middle of the back and between the shoulder blades. So some muscles we need to strengthen with that would still be the rhomboids, still be the mid and lower traps. You also need to strengthen your extensors of your thoracic spine, now not necessarily your cervical spine. However, if you strengthen your cervical spine, that will connect to some of the muscles in the back, such as the thoracic extensors, such as the semi-spinalis, the cervicus, the capitis, and the thoracic of those. So what we're going to do is start off with just a simple stretch you can do at your house. If you've ever participated in yoga, you've probably done this. It's just a simple little cat-cow or a cat-camel is what I call it. Whatever it's called, I'm going to get Latham to demonstrate it for us. This will be a good stretch for your thoracic spine. So what he's going to do is get down on all fours. And what he's really going to do is try to put his back, or really round his back all the way up to the ceiling, which if you're kyphotic, you should be pretty close to that anyway. And then he's just going to try to relax and bring his spine all the way down to the ground. So whenever he does this, he's trying to push up in his shoulders, trying to bring his head up through, and he's just going to repeat that anywhere. You can go for time, you can go for reps if you need to. Just get a good stretch, really pushing through those palms and the knees, going up, and then coming all the way back down, relaxing that lumbar spine, your thoracic spine, and pulling your shoulder blades together there at the bottom. Now, this is a really good stretch to do, even if you're not kyphotic, just to go ahead and stretch out some of the flexors and the extensors. Get back in camera here. But that is one really good stretch that you can do if you have some of that kyphosis going on, and also even for the forward head posture as well. So the next thing we're going to do is how are you going to strengthen maybe your mid and lower traps. Those are very hard areas to hit. And if you ever work out in a gym, you'll realize that is a pretty tough area to hit. So one of the things that I like to do with some of the people who I know are a little kyphotic or a little weak in the mid and lower traps, or what I call wall angels. So a wall angel is where you put your back on the wall. In this case, Latham's on a mirror. You're going to have your feet 6 to 8 inches away from the wall. You want your lower back to stay on the wall the whole time. If I had a deck of cards or anything like that, I would put a rubber band around it. I would put it in Latham's lower back or the client's lower back and make them hold the cards the whole time. If they fall out, then we know that their lower back came off and the pressure was off of it. So the lower back needs to stay on the wall, their shoulders need to stay on the wall, and their head needs to stay on the wall the whole time. Now the next thing I'm going to ask him to do is put his thumbs on the wall. So he's going to supinate his hands, put his thumbs on the wall, and it's called a wall angel. So it's just like making a snow angel, except you're on a wall. So what he's going to do is raise his hands up. And what we're looking for is for his thumbs to stay attached to the wall the whole time. Now, if the client's thumbs come off the wall at any point, that's as high as they need to go for the time being until they can stretch out and strengthen some of those extensors and some of those flexors of the cervical and thoracic spine. You could do these once again for time. You can do these for reps. Typically, I like to go in sets of 10 because you actually really start to feel these in your lower and mid traps whenever you start to do maybe sets of 12 to 15 of them. One thing to note is that you want to make sure you're staying relaxed in your upper traps the whole time. A lot of people will try to cheat and elevate their shoulders and their scaps and start to use their upper traps, and that's what we're trying to eliminate. We want to make sure that they're focusing on their lats and they're focusing on their mid and lower traps to really help with that kyphotic posture that they have. One more exercise. It's more of an exercise and a stretch that we're going to do. You need 2 people for this. What we're going to do is I'm actually going to ask Latham to sit down on our stability ball again. What he's going to do is sit down on the stability ball. Move the camera over. And he is going to face these boxes. Typically, you would face a chair or something like that. And what he's going to do is he's just going to sit there and relax. I'm going to start to apply pressure now. I would do it with 2 hands in between his thoracic spine, and I'm slowly going to apply pressure, almost like that cow posture that we just did with our stretch. Once he's as far as he can go, I'm going to ask him to put pressure back and push me away, just like that cat pose that we just had. He's going to do that. I really want him to focus on using his flexors and extensors of the spine, his rhomboids, and once again these trap muscles right here. Once I feel like he is applying enough pressure and he's able to withstand quite a bit of weight with me pushing on it, I'm going to ask him to scoot back. And I'm asking him to put his palms flat and his arms fully extended. And now we're going to do the same thing. So we're here, applying some of that pressure, trying to sink in that thoracic spine, and then I'm going to get him to apply pressure and push back on me. One thing to note here is to make sure that the client is not using their arms and that they're using their spine and their back muscles to really push against you. So that is also another maybe passive way to stretch and a passive way to strengthen those muscles there that could help you avoid that kyphotic posture and that malalignment. Again, moving on now to our third postural malalignment, we're actually going to have a internally rotated shoulders. This is actually very common. I'll ask Latham to do that again, but turn sideways. Notice his ears are here, and his acromion process is now here. And notice that his shoulder blades, if he was not wearing a shirt, you'd notice that they are really far apart and away from his spine. So his shoulders are protracted and away from his spine. They need to be retracted and set. Use about 2 or 3 finger lengths from the spine, even on both sides. This is very common now due to technology, due to, say, working out where you're doing more pushes than you are pulls. But mainly in our society today, especially in America, it's mainly due to being on cell phones, playing on video games, typing at computers, things like that. So over these habits that we have every day, as far as playing on our technology, this is going to tighten up a lot of the muscles we've already been through. This is going to be almost associated not necessarily with kyphosis, but a little bit of that forward head posture in a sense. If you're here, your head has no choice but to really go forward because it's a lot of work to really keep it back and have both. So you typically are going to have that forward head posture with the internally rotated shoulders. So with those muscles, what you want to stretch are your suboccipitals, your scap levators, your upper traps for sure whenever you're here because those are going to be extremely tight. Still a little bit of your pec minor, your anterior delts, and maybe even your biceps just a little bit, being pretty tight and rounded forward. So those muscles we need to stretch, and we need to make sure that they are loosened up and they're lengthened to their full capacity. And the muscles that we actually need to strengthen are mainly in our back and our posterior chain. So we need to make sure we're strengthening once again our rhomboids. Okay, they're going to bring those shoulder blades back. We're going to strengthen our lats. That will go ahead and pull the shoulders back and down. We want to make sure we're still hitting that mid to low trap. We also want to make sure we're hitting our rear delts. Still pulling those back. It's going to set off our anterior delt. It's pretty tight, so we need to pull that back. And we also need to make sure that we are getting those extensors also, once again, in our thoracic cavity and our cervical spine. And the extensors and the deep muscles of our lower back are really going to help us have that great posture. So some of the stretches that we can do for our internally rotated lats, once again, it's just going to be the ball stretch that we had. If that's not going to work, I'm going to ask Latham to sit down on his butt for me. I'm asking him to put his hands out straight, or his feet out straight, his palms down. I'm just going to ask him to push his chest forward. This is going to get his pecs, it's going to get his anterior delts, it's going to get his biceps, and really quite a few of those trouble areas that we had. Now he can actually do this for time. He can do this for reps if he needs to. Sorry about the light in the background. And he can just sit here and repeatedly do this. This would also be a great stretch for people who are at home, who are watching TV, or sitting at the couch, or maybe just trying to relax. This is going to help that the internally rotated shoulders. That'd be a great stretch to do whenever you're just also sitting there relaxing, like I just said. So some of the exercises that we can actually do to correct this posture would be, one, to do the rear delts and just get those rhomboids activated just a little bit would be a simple band tear apart or a pull apart. So what he's going to do is have his arms out. His elbows are going to stay locked the whole time. Make sure he's not bending his elbows. He's going to literally try to tear the band apart now, pulling it across his chest, right there. One thing to make sure that the client doesn't do is make sure they don't contract these upper traps. Make sure they're relaxed. Because remember, if they have the internally rotated shoulders, they're already going to be pretty tight up here. So what I'm going to ask him to do is pull his shoulder blades down, squeeze back here, and what I like to do is ask somebody, say, hey, here's a can of your favorite beverage, put it between your shoulders, you're trying to crush the can. That's what you're trying to do whenever you're doing the band pull-aparts. So these are really focused on the rhomboids and everything that's posterior chain. Another thing we can do to focus on the rear delts would just be band X's. Now this is the same exact movement, but instead of being straight, he's now going to make one side of an X. If I can get in the camera. There we go. He's pulling the band apart, making one side of an X, still keeping his elbows locked out, and still relaxing these upper traps the best he can. This is going to focus on the rear delts. Once again, the rhomboids, and this actually may hit a little bit of that mid to lower trap as well, just because of the angle that we're going, pulling down with that bottom arm. Once again, you can do these for time. Typically, I will ask clients or even athletes to do sets of 12 to 15 of these. And typically, you can tell that they're doing them correct whenever you see after about rep 10 and their face is it's not feeling pretty good on their shoulders, their back. Finally, one more thing you can do with the band is you can wrap it around a post. You can have somebody hold it if you need to. But all we're going to do is I'm going to ask Latham to grab it with his thumbs up, if he can. And I'm going to have him pull his elbows in tight and pull his shoulder blades back together, once again, squeezing that can of his favorite beverage between his shoulder blades, relaxing the traps. Whenever we do this, making sure that his traps are relaxed are a huge key. And making sure that he's squeezing back here, not just pulling everything with his arms. Make sure that he's actually getting that full range of motion in his shoulder blades. One more that we can do is I'm going to ask Latham to actually put his hands inside the band with his palms up. Okay, I'm going to have him squat down in a little quarter squat, just a little bit. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to have Latham relax his traps. I want him to go ahead and pull his shoulder blades down. And now whenever we do this, I want him to pull it straight back. This is going to focus on his lats. We're still getting a little bit of that rhomboid work, but now we're focusing on these lats a little bit lower, and that's going to help him depress his scaps and pull them back just a little bit, and that's going to help us get our upper traps a little bit more relaxed and less involved in what we're doing. A lot of people will do a lot of rows to correct this internally rotated lat or internally rotated shoulders, and they forget about their lats. The lats do a lot in trying to relax this upper trap and take pressure off of it when doing exercises. So remember, the lat is